Hello, my name's Jonny Drury. Welcome to ShropshireStar.com. I'm here with Lewis Cox, the Shrewsbury Town correspondent. A tired Lewis Cox after a long season finally came to an end on Saturday. Lewis, season's over. No sort of switching off with all the news that's followed in the last couple of days.
Really.
Salop have released their retained lists, couple of new contract sign-ins, few are out the door. Busy week, even though the season's over.
Yeah. I think most people think that when the last ball of the season is kicked, that's it. Like, we just sort of pack in, go home, don't do anything. You know, the column inches magically fill themselves.
Never the case
until August, but no. Well, July the 30th this year. It'll be back before we know it, won't it? But yeah, busy. Things started happening 24 hours later, didn't they? You know, Sunday I was over in Wales, enjoying myself in sunny Barmouth. And yeah, then one of the players, it turned out to be Josh Daniels, announced he was off. So I was a little surprised the players were called and told so early, as in the Sunday morning, you know, the next morning after the last game. But obviously, get it over and done with ASAP, I suppose, is, you know, probably the best policy, isn't it? And that's what they did. And a couple, obviously Josh Daniels put the news out. There's a couple more bits we obviously learned through that day, and went on to Monday's bank holiday, and then the retain list dropped. What was it, before 9 a.m. Tuesday morning, didn't it? So happened quickly. No time to sort of breathe and dwell on the season really yet. I'm sure we'll talk about that in the coming weeks maybe or whatever. But yeah, interesting retain list. Not too many surprises, maybe one or two. Busy times still.
As you say, busy times. Just looking at the list, you know, two of the standout ones, probably, you know, Elliot, Bennett and Josh Vela have arguably been two of Salop's best performers this season. You know, Salop fans must be pleased, certainly in terms of Vela, that a new deal has been struck, considering he's attracted interest.
Yeah, that was the two the club reported as to have been offered and agreed, wasn't it? And I think obviously we put out a story that Josh Vela was being offered new contract. Clubs are keen on, interested in. I don't think there'd be any shortage of interest in Josh Vela. So to agree something there and tie something down is excellent early work, really. I mean, I'm a big fan of Vela's. I think he's a top player. Not had the season that he did the previous season when he was standout player of the year, I don't think, but I think he could probably make reasons why in his case, with maybe position in the midfield, maybe injury and unavailability and so on. But yeah, he's, for me, he's legs and the heart, part of the heartbeat of the side. While I think we've had a conversation on a previous video, while he might lack goals from midfield or even assists or whatever, his game predominantly is that energy and that pressing, and I don't think there are many League One players that can do it like him. So yeah, massive one, and ditto Elliot Bennett. To be honest, I don't think there was as much doubt there with him. But what a season he had! Excellent debut campaign for a club that means a lot to him, close to home. Telford boy. He's obviously moved and settled. He's back here at home. Well, to be honest, he was always at home. He used to commute. I certainly know he commuted up to Blackburn, so that was a fair trip. But yeah, he's loving it here, and what a season he had at right wing back. Not too much depth competition in that position, so he had to keep going again through injuries. He had personal family, issues, obviously, with the sad loss of his dad. He's played on, ultimate professional, brilliant character in the dressing room, great footballer, can play in midfield if he has to, quite comfortably. Great news for him to have another year on his deal, and he'll be a big player again next season, I think. So yeah, those two were big, and yeah, you could probably file Vela under an early surprise.
In terms of other surprises, just looking at the list now, so obviously agreed terms, Vela and Bennett, a number still in contract. Harry Burgoyne's exercised a contract extension. Yep. New terms have been offered to Jade and Bevan. Two players have returned to their parent clubs. Sekou Jana obviously didn't do an awful lot. Tyrese Forner was one of the standout ones in the latter part of the season. But just looking at the release list, surprises on there. Just touching first on the standout name on there, Super Shaun Wallace. He came back from injury. Is it safe to say, Lewis, or what's your opinion? If he hadn't had that injury this season and been out for so long, could he have potentially earned a a contract extension, or was his time at Shrewsbury always sort of going to come to an end?
Probably the latter, I think, unfortunately, if I'm being honest. It's hard, isn't it? It's hard when it comes to, someone who's a modern day sort of icon. Not regards to Shaun, but I'm always sort of a bit iffy about using the legend word because it gets tossed around, doesn't it? Too easy at times. But, fans have called him that this week upon his departure. So, and I agree, really. I mean, I've covered the club for 6 seasons now, and he's been here through all of it. Obviously, he done seven in total, ever present, part. I wrote today in today's Star, didn't I, and online, a forever part of the club, a good era in the club at this level, the most consistent level since the 1980s. And he's shone through it all, despite playing under some managers who don't use wingers. Like the current one, he's still found ways to force his way in different positions, win games with brilliant goals, his runs. Fan favourite, icon, hero, legend, all of the above. But I think, under Steve Cotterill, with where he is, 34, turning 35 as well in August, to be fair, even though I don't particularly think he's slowed down, if I'm being honest. It was probably time under the manager. I think my personal opinion is he is a very good and able squad member. If you would have offered him another year, I think he could have, maybe not happily settled, but settled for, you're not going to be a regular starter. We still don't play formation with, your position as a winger, but, you're going to come on in more games than you're not, and affect games and have the odd start here and there. I think he's still going to win you points and score your goals and assists and win penalties, beat players. He's just that player. He's got that Vardy about him, that late starter that, he's getting on for mid-30s, but still sharp as a pin. So, shame. Shame, and he'll be missed by everyone, I think. It'll be fascinating to see where he goes. Very interesting. I'd like to see him stay in the division. It'll be strange to watch him play against Town. But I think he could still do a job in League One, if not certainly a very good job in League Two. So let's see. I mean, some obvious early candidates, aren't there? Accrington up in Liverpool way, Tranmere. Who knows? Wrexham could get up into League Two. I'm not sure how well that would go down with the Town faithful. You might have to think about that one. But then Wrexham probably aren't short of a bob or two at the moment, are they? So they might be able to entice him. But whichever club gets him, wow, they're going to do well. I think he's still fit. He had the long layoff this season, but that was not a freak injury, but a big impact one. What can you do about that? So, sad. I think I most expected it, I would say. I think, some fans probably hoped that he would get something else. A bit sad that we didn't see him for longer in the final game the other day for his send-off, for his farewell. He only got the last 5 minutes, didn't he? But that's the way it goes. And no decisions are made on sentiment, are they, in football when it comes to new contracts, keeping players? Doesn't happen that way. So, sad, but that's the way it's gone.
Just elsewhere on that list, as you said there, Josh Daniels is gone. Cameron Gregory's gone. Yep. Just on the other three, Lewis, probably the standout one, Ethan Ebanks-Landell, captain.
Easy for you to say.
I know, Ethan Ebanks-Landell wasn't offered a new deal. What was your reaction personally to that? I know some Town fans have been a little bit surprised.
Yeah, that was probably the one that was more of a surprise, a little bit of a surprise, I would say, and for a couple of reasons, really. He's been largely, he's been a regular this season. The other reason is, of course, he was made captain at the start of the season by the manager. So you think, well, good reasons behind that decision. And because, he's been a regular. Whenever he's been fit and available this season, he's played. Now he's had spells out with COVID and an injury or two possibly. But that aside, he's played every game. I was a little bit surprised to read yesterday he'd only played 33 of the 46 league games. So that's quite a little chunk he's missed, isn't it? My maths is terrible, as people will know, but that's a good number, a good portion of the league season that he's not been available for. So maybe there's a thinking there. He's 29, Ebanks-Landell. we'll get onto his defensive colleague Aaron Pierre as well, won't we? In a second, who was also let go, who's also 29. We talk about Wally being 34. You know, those perhaps Cotterill's looking at the age of players he can, you know, he's letting go and seeing if the ones he sort of brings in are a bit younger to bring the average age down a little bit more. I think Ebanks Landau's had an excellent 3 seasons at the club, signed by Sam Ricketts. I don't think he let Town down this season when he played as skipper. He obviously in a back 3 with Nurse and Pennington initially, 2 Cotterill signings, and then Pennington and Flanagan. Flanagan, another Cotterill signing. So I think he held his own. I think he missed the last handful of games, didn't he? Which ironically Town didn't get a victory from. So I've seen a lot of fans say they felt he was missed actually in those games, and his sort of physical presence, defending set pieces, was missed. There's probably something in that. I'm not sure I'd entirely buy into it, but there's probably something in it. And yeah, so a surprise, I would say. I don't think I was, you know, amazingly flabbergasted, but a little bit of a surprise he wasn't offered something. Perhaps he's got something sorted. See, he lives reasonably locally, but he's been a good servant, hasn't he? Over 100 games, you know, captain this season, served the club well, led the club well. Wish him all the best.
As you say, that Aaron Pierre's gone. Just another one that interests me a little bit. David Davis has also not had a new deal. I know at times, certainly I covered quite a few Shrewsbury games earlier this season where there was a lot of angst from the fans about a lack of players in midfield. Obviously, Josh Vela was in there. Then you had David Davis. They did sign Tyrese Forner in January.
Well, Lee, who was obviously a left wing back, left centre half, ended up as the midfield star, didn't he, as well, which sort of sums it up.
Yeah, he came in, didn't he, as almost like an emergency in there, really, and then sort of took the role on as his own. But David Davis going, does that indicate that there's work? Obviously, and Forner's gone back. That's going to be a big department to fill this summer for Steve Cotterill.
Yeah. Davis, unlucky with that injury. I believe it's February. I think I'm right in saying the home game with Portsmouth. It was a Tuesday night, I think. Yeah, had a bad fall on the ankle, was it, or was it his knee? Forgive me, I can't quite remember. I think it was a knee, wasn't it? A bad knee injury. He sort of fell and twisted it, from what I remember, just in front of the dugout, and it felt bad at the time. It looked bad just in front of us, and obviously we got the news it was season ending. He had to have surgery, didn't he? He was playing really well before that, I think, really well. You know, keeping the loan signing Forner out the side, who eventually came in and did brilliantly. Davis, I think, from about December onwards, was playing really well, and you know, more than warranted his place in the side. And I think if he'd have not had that injury, yeah, who knows? Forner might have got a go. We don't know, but I think Davis would have featured heavily, and would have been at this point, you know, getting to the end of the season, thinking that's a really interesting decision to make. Actually, the interesting thing about Davis is, of course, this time last year he was let go. You know, January 2021, when Cotterill first brought him in, he played for 6 months, was released, and then invited back to train, and then re-signed later in the summer when one or two things with both parties might have not come off. So, you know, probably when it comes to Davis, especially after the injury, it's always in your back of your head that the manager has released him before. Now he's 12 months older, suffered a significant injury. It's going to be difficult for him. I mean, I'm not exactly sure on the timescale of that. I certainly don't think, to my knowledge, he's going to be fit, firing and raring to go for pre-season. But hopefully he's, you know, looked after physically and can get a good move and get a good pre-season, even if he's not attached to a club, and build up his fitness and ready for a good move for the season, because he's not really as old as people. You know, David Davis is only 31, and when he got going last season, when he got into his stride in the team, he looked very good for me. He was doing well. Totally different type of player to Forner, of course, at that base of that midfield, but certainly I think very capable of doing a very good job in League Two, I would say. So the club getting a good player there, as long as he can put that injury behind him. But an interesting one, yeah. I don't know. You know, he'd have carried on in the team, and I've no doubt he'd have done well. But would he have stayed? I'm not sure. He was just unlucky with that knock.
Just aside from the release retained list, new contracts, the sort of summer rumour mill is slowly going to start to turn in the coming days and weeks. But one early rumour that we've heard, you know, certainly a few Shrewsbury Town fans would have seen on the social media grapevine, Marko Marosi linked with the move of his former teammate Nathaniel Ogbetter to Swansea.
Yeah.
What can you sort of update on that one, Lewis? Seems like a bit of a flimsy rumour at the moment.
Yeah, well, I can firmly knock it down, as fans may have seen online. That rumour sort of began to surface over the weekend, and I think a video was done, wasn't it, where it was mentioned, and it seemed to catch fire from there, really. And before you know it, people are asking me, is Marko off? Swansea fans seem to think he's signed at the is it still the Liberty Stadium? Does Swansea still call it that? Yeah.
I don't know. All these stadiums have got these long windows.
You're a championship veteran this season, mate. You should know this.
That's one ground I didn't go to, but yeah, they've got long names. The one that was out Saturday had a something logistics something stadium.
Oh, I saw that Reading. Yeah. The Medeski. Yeah.
Anyway, it'll always be the Liberty and the Medeski to me.
Yeah, well, yeah. So no, there's nothing in that as it stands. Nothing at all. From the Morosi side of it. Again, we're recording this. What is it? Wednesday afternoon, isn't it? Lose track of time. Not sure when it'll go out, but written something for tomorrow, Thursday's Star. Paper and online, which fans can read. Bit more in depth about Morosi with where he is, where that is. I think fans were happy to see that he'll be sticking around because good keeper, great debut season, still got 2 years on his deal, so Town are in a really strong position. But it's just nice to have that keeper there and settled, and not the churn every summer of needing a new one, needing a new loan keeper. Last summer, obviously, they bought Morosi, and that was a plan to get a keeper in and get him settled, so you're not constantly having to worry about who on earth is going to be your keeper next season, So, yeah, glad to hear he's staying around because I think he's had a really good debut season. Loads of clean sheets, impressive stats, excellent keeper, saved Town a number of points, I'd say.
Well, me and you will be talking about Morosi and all the rest of the Town squad this season, reflecting on what's gone on. We'll be at the Meadow later this week.
Yes. Don't forget about Tom Bloxham, Super Tom,
and Tom Bloxham as well. Yes. Tom Bloxham signed new 3-year contract. Shows that he's very much in Steve Cotterill's plans for the future.
Just quickly on him, I think they're hoping he'll be able to blossom and have a had a real breakthrough season this season, but kick on and do even better next season. Still only 18, it's incredible, really. You kind of forget he's 18, but protecting the value as well, isn't it? Getting a lengthy deal like that, 3 years plus an option as well, it puts Town in a very strong position should he kick on and do excellent things, as we all hope.
Absolutely, we'll be looking forward to seeing him. We'll be reflecting on Bloxham and Morosi and all the other Town players later this week when me and you convene at the Meadow for our sort of yearly roundup. Just in the meantime, before we sign off, you looking forward to your summer? Bit of downtime away from Salop?
Bit of sun away from the United Kingdom, mate. That's the that's the headline. That's the priority. But in an ideal world, I'll go for 2 weeks and all the signings happen and everything happens, and I haven't got to worry about anything. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Just finally, some big breaking Shrewsbury news. Me and Lewis have been cooking this up behind.
You got an exclusive?
Exclusive, mate. Exclusive. Wow. Better than a Morosi exclusive.
Care to share, mate, please.
The old Shrews Views podcast, as it used to be known, we're going to stick with that name, is back next season. Myself and Lewis will be bringing you a podcast every 2 weeks talking about everything to do with Salop. Yes, big scoop. Everything to do with Salop. We'll be starting towards the end of June, possibly the last week of June into July. We'll be bringing you, hopefully, guests, some exclusive stories, little teasers, little segments, just everything to do with Salop every 2 weeks, starting in pre-season and throughout the season. And we want as many fans to listen as we can, and many fans involved as well. We'll be bringing you more information on that in the coming weeks. But yeah, Shrews Views is back for the new season. Well, I know there's a few Salop podcasts on the market, Lewis. We've got our work cut out trying to get to the top, haven't we?
Yeah. We might have
we can do it. We can do it.
Yeah, no doubt, mate. Yeah, no doubt. Not quite as many Town appearances as in the Stiffs, but we can rob, Shropshire Star columnist Dave Edwards, can't we? No problem.
I played on the Meadow once, mate. That'll count. I made one appearance on the Old Meadow. One of the last players to play on the Old Meadow. We'll talk about that.
Jonny Drury. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you strut your stuff? Did you?
Did, yeah. We lost 11-0 in the cup final, but still counts, doesn't it?
Yeah. Awesome.
But that'll be coming towards the end of June. In the meantime, we'll be bringing you Lewis will be away, but we'll bring in everything across the summer. What promises to be a busy summer for Shrewsbury. So for all the rest of that and for all your Salop news, go to shropshirestar.com.